All right, I have Jim Ward here with us today. Thank you for joining us today, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so this last 18 months or more have just been been weird for many reasons, but it's hard to get timeline straight with bands because it goes, everything kind of like gets screwed up over a year ago, and then that's a little bit long to figure out when stuff happened. But you had a record, a Sparta record, ready to be released a year ago, April, when everything shut down.
Yes, yeah, it came out in April. So we were sort of like, had spent a year. We recorded it in 2019. So it was like a year of work all the way up to, obviously the pandemic ending everything, and all the tours got canceled, and, etc.
Yeah, so you were poised to I think to go on tour and start the press, or to continue like all the press blitz and everything to support Trust in the River from the Sparta, and then that all got shut down basically.
Yeah, just sort of all fell apart, which is sort of the impetus of this thing.
Right. So I understand. Then you start.
We own a restaurant. My wife and I own a restaurant as well. So it's kind of like the two things that got hit pretty hard. We got both of them.
Right. So what then you found yourself with basically being able just to go back to writing.
Yeah, I was alone at home, as far as musicians go. I was just by myself. And I sort of just began writing songs to kind of deal with the anxiety and the, the uncertainty and the everything that came along with last year. So for me, music is pretty therapeutic, and it just sort of exploded sort of by accident. Really, we didn't mean to make a record, just kind of happened.
Yeah, and so you passed have you so for your new record, Style Daggers, is out now on Dynalone Records. Yes. And your work, it's a 3-piece that you're working with.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. So the recording process was me and Tucker Rule, who plays drums for Thursday, and Ben Kinney, who plays bass in Incubus and played with The Roots. So it's just some friends making music together. It won't be, obviously it won't be the live band. They have pretty good gigs as is. So I have different people that will be on tour with me, but the record was made with basically the three of us and a few other friends jumping in, but all done via email.
Okay. Have you worked with Tucker and Ben before?
No, we're just bros. We've just been friends forever. Tucker and I have been friends for 20 years, and Ben and I have been friends for 15 years. And I actually introduced the two of them about 13 years ago in Australia when we were all on a festival together. So we've all been friends for a long time and sort of chatted about doing this at some point. And I just wrote all these songs kind of in like a 2-week period and let them send them to them, and they made them significantly better.
So yeah, so it had to be kind of surreal. Like I've read on a couple of other interviews preparing for this that this is kind of your dream rhythm section.
It's pretty ridiculous, isn't
it? Absolutely, yeah. And so it has to be kind of surreal to like actually finally get to work with these guys on a professional level, but it has to be remote.
Yeah, it's surreal in both ways, right? So the first thing is just the level of musicianship that they bring to it is, it's sort of like, I've been writing songs for a long time, and I've been in bands for most of my life. And when you get this sort of like breath of fresh air with playing with different people that just do things in their own unique way, and I don't give any direction. I just say, here's my song, do whatever you want, and that's the way it is. So that's kind of refreshing in one way, and then surreal. And then it's also surreal because I've never made a record with nobody else in the room ever. Even down to mixing, you know what I mean? Like everything was done remotely. So I would send stuff, upload it, people would call me, tell me what they thought, send it back. And, obviously it takes a minute longer, but there's sort of this weird freedom in it. And I sort of felt like the creative part there was no boundaries on it, right? Because it wasn't, there was no time crunch. There was no like, can we get this done before lunch? Can we go eat lunch? Like, I'm tired of listening to you play. Like, you know what I mean? Just the stuff that happens in the studio naturally. All of that was out the window. and people just took their time and played the way they wanted to, and it happened to go really quickly, like incredibly quickly. But I mean, I guess because none of us really had anything else to do.
Right. Yeah, and I guess, yeah, the quickness too, it was also very organic, not
Yeah,
forced by, we only have a week in the studio or.
right. And there was no, I mean, even in the beginning, it wasn't even meant to be a record. It was just, let's just play some music together for fun. And it kind of snowballed, but there was no intention, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, let's plan this and do it during the pandemic and then it'll come out and we'll have a plan. Like none of that. It was just totally organic, fun, uh, friendship, really.
Right. And so you were prompted to put this out by your label, by Dine Alone Records.
Right. Well, so I was just gonna just sort of upload it to the internet and
Mm-hmm.
just say, hey, everybody, I made this thing. Check it out if you want. But I have to, you know, under contract, I have to show them what I'm working on before I do anything. And they said, hold up, man, we really like this. Can we make this like a proper record? And for sure, I was excited because that's a compliment when people that do this for a living want to put out your music.
No, absolutely. And it's a fantastic record. It's been
Thank you.
on almost nonstop repeat in my various players,
Thank you
and
so much.
it's really good. So you're in or you've been in a number of bands. Like, when you're normally writing or working on music, are you working on music for a specific project, like for Sparta or for Sleeper Car, or
It just
it,
depends on sort of where my head's at. And it's kind of, I sort of write all the time. And then I feel like those things sort of naturally fall into the place that they seem to want to fit. But like on Trust the River, there's a song on there that I wrote for Sleeper Car 10 years ago. So sometimes they just start moving over to different
right.
to different projects depending on
Mm-hmm.
sort of the rest of the material. And I'm sort of one of those guys that writes a lot and sort of puts it on the shelf. So it's probably like 3 or 4 songs to one that ever really even makes it to a band. And I just kind of
Okay.
keep going through that stuff and putting them on the shelf and bringing them back down. And it's kind of like for me, songwriting is a journey, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
always trying to find and find new inspiration and see where I can go with it. And you know, maybe it's a new band that I hear that sort of sparks something in me. I just kind of go and record stuff a lot. So every now and then it comes, but then like with this record, all of that was written in the same basic 12-day period. That
Okay.
happens sometimes too. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
hard to say.
Right. So, and on this record too, you've got Shauna Potter on
Yeah.
from War on Women on guest vocals
Yeah.
for I Got a Secret. How did that come about?
So Brooks Harlan, who plays in More on Women,
Yep.
and I have been friends our entire life. We grew up together. So obviously I've known Shauna for a long time because they've been in bands over the years. And I'm a big fan of their band and of her singing. And when I finished this song, I knew that I wanted it to be sort of a call and response song.
Mm-hmm.
And she just immediately popped into my mind as somebody that could like elevate the song with her intensity and ability. So I sent it to her, and I'm so grateful that she, you know, agreed to do it and then made it awesome, and then went on to make videos and you know, do the live stream with us. And she's been awesome. She's been really supportive of this.
Yeah, she's an amazing artist. We've been fortunate enough to I've had a chance to chat with her a couple of times
It's
with
great.
War on Women projects, and I just want to also say that it would be I want to see you and Shauna Potter do more. I think that song is absolutely amazing, and it would
Thank you.
be awesome to see like a full length album of you guys working together, because I think your voices just work so well
Yeah,
together.
it did. They do go really well together, and I'd love to do more stuff for sure.
And I also, like, in preparation, I mentioned you mentioned, one of your dream collaborations would be with Jay Robbins, and they've done stuff with Jay Robbins, so that would.
Yeah, yeah. It's I'm circling.
Right.
Right. I'm getting there.
Yep. So you guys are all you just all put it out. We're kind of hopefully coming to the end of the pandemic, and you just also booked a couple of dates, live dates with
Yeah.
with your tour. I guess it's going to be your touring band
Right.
under Jim Ward.
Yes. Yeah. We just announced some Thrice shows, so we're gonna do
Mhm.
3 Texas shows with Thrice. And then we'll be adding a few more dates in 20,
Mhm.
whatever year we're in, 2021. I don't even know. And then probably more in 2022. So yeah, Matthew Gardner from Sydney is playing drums with me, and then Matt Miller from Sparta is playing bass. So
Okay.
it's a spread out crew right now, but hopefully we'll all be in the same room for for the shows.
So, so working, so Matt Miller's of Sparta, and so these songs, it's you had mentioned before again in another interview that, you know, like these songs are just like purely yours,
Mhm.
from a standpoint of like, you kind of feel like maybe in other bands they might have gotten, you know, either cut up or left on the floor.
Yeah, that's what happens in a band, is that
Right.
it's you know, when I play in a band, everybody's input is valued.
Hmm.
And there's a plus and a minus to that. The plus being that you get additional ideas that you never would have thought of. And of course the minus is that some of your ideas get rounded off
Hmm.
and they lose a little bit of the edge that they had when you brought them in. So with this project, it was, you know, it's one of those things where this is, I can take all of the heat for anything that people don't like, because this is, you know, my writing and my songs.
Hmm.
And um, you know, and I love both of those things. I love being in bands, and I love having people bring up things that I never would have thought of. And then I also love doing it sometimes and just not having to compromise anything. And I think that my fortunate part of this career has been that I've gotten to do all of those things. And I'm lucky. I'm lucky for that. I've learned a lot, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I this album, I don't know, I just, it really feels like it's the culmination of like everything I've listened to that you've done, you know, just you know, I think certainly to a, like maybe in a raw sense or just in an unedited sense, you know, kind of has all of those. You can hear, you know, I hear some of the drapings of Sleeper Car, and definitely some of the, like the guitar parts you would maybe hear in a Sparta record.
Mhm.
And it just is really cool to hear that all come together in, you know, just put together in a, you know, kind of thrown in the blender, and the way it comes out really works
Well, thank you.
across the entire
Yeah,
record.
I'm over the moon right now. It's been a trip. This last few weeks has been a real trip, like in a good way, you know.
So the record's out now. It's out. It's titled Daggers. It's out on Dine Alone Records. Do you have? Is it out physically or just um,
It
ele-
it is actually, and
electronically?
it's actually Dine Alone sold out of the vinyl, which is crazy to me that
Okay.
we've done that. And the CD has already been repressed. So yeah, you can order it. You could go to my merch store. We still have some copies, which
Okay.
is merch.jimwardofficial.com.
Okay.
Um, and you can find other fun merch there. I tried, again, being a solo thing, I get to do
Mhm.
whatever merch I want. So I have like Bic pins, which I've always
Oh,
wanted to do. You can order like the clicky Bic pin. I'm
okay.
excited about that. And you know, like shirts and the normal stuff, baseball hats, whatever. But yeah, you can go there.
So you've said in other interviews too that like as you've gotten later into your career or deeper into your career, you kind of have the advantage of being able to pick when you tour,
Right. So
and go on the
I've made my
road.
life not dependent on the industry. So
Right.
one of those things is consciously living in El Paso, doing other things for a living so that I don't have to be dependent on the cycle, because the
Hmm.
cycle is not good for my mental health. And it took me a long time to figure that out. But I'm a better, nicer, happier person when I can tour when I want to and
Hmm.
play shows when it's exciting to me, and not be just ground down for the sort of commerce part of music, which is
Right.
fine. I don't have a problem with commerce in music. I have a problem when we put commerce ahead of mental health.
Right. So do you have any sort of kind of idea as to like how much touring you're planning, or like how much of the country you're maybe planning to do behind supporting this particular record?
So my rule is I'm gonna kind of just go on tour like 20% of the year
Okay.
forever, and I'll just
Mhm.
make records as I go. So there'll be,
Okay.
you know, maybe 50 shows a year, um, and maybe I'll get everywhere, every record or every other record. But I
Hmm.
kind of just want to make records and go play shows. And I sort of like, you know, Patti Smith goes and plays places that she wants to explore. Like
Right.
I love that, because one, let's take advantage of the commerce in music and pay for me and my family and my friends to all go and see somewhere awesome and spend time there. What I don't want to do is get into a bus at 2 a.m., sleep through the countryside, wake up in front of a venue, and do that every day for 400 days a year. Like, it just
Right.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me at this age,
Hmm.
because there's no excitement left in that for me. So the idea of playing smaller clubs 3 nights in a row, um, is way more exciting to me. One, you get to change up the set list, you get to see
Hmm.
people multiple nights, but more importantly, you get to wake up in a city and understand and sort of uh, absorb that culture. Go have lunch with your friends. Go see museums that you wouldn't see otherwise, instead of just constantly being this moving machine.
No, absolutely. And get to kind of get a feel of the city, and, get out and actually spend quality time.
Right, daylight time,
Yeah.
which is
No,
exciting to me.
exactly. So are there any plans? So when we started talking, it started talking about how Sparta had, you have trust in the river with Sparta kind of sitting there. Are you also potentially planning to do some Sparta touring in that?
So right now we'll concentrate on this record and this sort of
Hmm.
touring package. But the thing
Yep.
is, with this touring package, we will play a lot of Sparta stuff.
Okay.
So we're gonna just sort of see where it goes. I mean, maybe this is the fork in the road for a while.
Hmm.
Um, sort of my deal is I don't really put rules or limitations or expectations on this stuff. So it's hard to say. I know there's people that plan all this stuff out for five
Right.
years or whatever. I'm just not one of those people. Like, I'm really 6 months maximum.
Okay.
Like, that's as far as my brain can even comprehend, and even that is a stretch, to be honest with you.
All right. So again, we're speaking with Jim Ward. The new record is Daggers. It's out now on Dynalone Records. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time today.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And again, your merch shop, you said merch.
.jimwardofficial.com.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you, man.